Hi, I'm Tim, he's Brian, and welcome to the Watch Box. From the vault today, the team with the theme, we're talking about stainless steel watches. And we're starting with a wrist chat because we're both wearing them. Brian, what you got?
Today I am wearing a 5065, so this is a stainless steel 38mm Aquanaut, long discontinued. It does not feature the integrated rubber strap. You've got a black waffle dial, super luminescent indices and hands, and one of the key differentiating factors about this watch is the strap. My favorite part, that the strap from the ladies' Luce watches fit onto these models, meaning that you can consistently change the strap and utilize different colors. For me, the 38 was a mid-size that always fit my wrist incredibly well. I was upset when they actually discontinued the 5165, which was the 38mm version of the current Aquanaut watch. So again, 5065, a great daily wear and probably my most worn watch, throughout COVID.
Okay, and today you guys have begun to see that I'm wearing, over the last couple of weeks, the Devon Tread Group 63. This is actually a 63-piece limited edition in black DLC and carbon fiber. So it's stainless steel blackened and carbon fiber, and it's an edition dedicated to a UAE-based car club called Group 63. 4 belts, regulator display, jump second, minute, and hour. When you wake it back up, which is what I'm doing right now, I'm starting it up, it retains the hours, the minutes, and even the seconds. Thermocompensated quartz, you recharge it, and it has about a 7 to 10 day battery life between chargings. I absolutely love this thing. This one was sent to me by Devon. We are a dealer of these new if you're interested, and I am in fact interested. I'm thinking of buying the Tread 1F model that Robert Downey Jr. wore in Infinity War and Endgame. So that's what I'm wearing today. It's also the only American-made watch in the building today. Let's get started with a watch that most assuredly is not American in origin. Let me quiet it down because it's rather chatty. This one's yours, Brian. What do you think?
Fantastic watch. This is the new Octo Finissimo in stainless steel. Bright blue sunburst dial. Overall, obviously, easily recognizable as an Octo Finissimo. Extraordinarily thin. The bracelet's thin as well. You've got an integrated clasp into the stainless steel bracelet. What differentiates this watch from the other Octo Finissimos that all of you may be used to is the fact that this watch is 100 meters water resistant. The crown is screw down. So this is going to truly be a integrated steel sports watch. You can wear this watch in the ocean, you can wear this watch in the pool. It truly is a daily wear, and the watch is exceptionally comfortable. As we always say, we're so used to the, call it, Geraldenta integrated steel sports watches that it's rare when another special one comes along. And to me, the Octo Finissimo is one of those special pieces.
Yeah, it's a fascinating shape because it was actually born back in 2000 after Genta left the Gerald Genta company. But right around the time it was purchased by Bulgari, so the design is Gerald Genta, the company, not the man. But it didn't actually come of age until 2014 when Bulgari launched the first of the Octo Finissimo models, an ultra-thin version of the long-running faceted Octo case. That was, back then, the Tourbillon. And Bulgari slowly rolled out new versions up to 2017 when the Everyman model, the automatic, came out. Now at the time it was the world's thinnest automatic watch in production, and at only 6.7 millimeters thick, now 100 meters water resistant. This is still a very thin watch. The movement is the same as you'll get in the titanium model, albeit better protected from water. It's still only 2.23 millimeters thick with a 60-hour power reserve. That's achieved by a mechanical winding system driven on ceramic bearings by a platinum, not gold, not tungsten, platinum rotor. It's 36.6 millimeters wide, the movement is, by less than 2.25 millimeters thick, and it's designed to fit this case. A movement designed for the case is the mark of a true manufacturer, and Bulgari is more of a manufacturer than most, building through its various subsidiaries the dial, the hands, the case, the bracelet, the clasp, and the movement. A lot of true manufacturers just build movements. Bulgari builds the whole watch. Now I throw it on my wrist and you can see it's the same 40 millimeters as the original version, but it feels less toy-like with the stainless steel.
Looks great on you, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Well, I didn't plan to match my shirt to your watch. You picked this one, I didn't. It's a good combo though. And you can see how it really pops with an element that the original Octo Finissimo automatic lacked. This model is technically called the Satin and Polish, and you can see why. The combination of silver satin graining and high polish causes the 110 facets of the case to explode, The original media blasted version in titanium was a lot more muted. This one is full luxury and really impressive.
Yeah, no, I mean, it fits incredibly well. To me, it's really an overlooked watch. I think that it's a watch that most consumers probably are not even aware of. It's thin, it's comfortable. The 40 millimeters actually presents slightly larger, but it still fits like a 40, which is amazing how it does that. I think that, you know, again, if you're trying to find a 5711 or a 15202 jumbo, or even any, let's call it steel royal oak, you know, this is a watch that really should be viewed as a possible choice. And I think that it sometimes doesn't get the credit that it deserves, because very often Bulgari gets associated as a ladies' watch brand, even though they do an exceptional job in the men's watch department as well.
Yeah, they've probably come farther than any company in terms of their credibility with traditional mechanical watch collectors. You really need to take them seriously, and with a retail price below $12,000 for that model, it's priced right new. It's even better pre-owned. I should mention this one is a 2020 model, now available just at the beginning of its run on the pre-owned market. So we're just beginning to see these watches, and it's different for every brand because some novelties are only rolling out now. We usually see them in the spring, but we are starting to see these pre-owned. Now, a watch that came out a few years ago, back when Baselworld was still Baselworld, is the Omega Constellation Globemaster, and the Globe is a Connie. 39 millimeters in stainless steel. You usually see it on a strap. Rarely do you find the watch on a full integrated bracelet. Now remember, this model debuted in 2014, which is to say Omega was way ahead of the curve, integrating the bracelet to the case and creating a 100-meter water-resistant automatic winding fully loomed sports watch that pairs that integrated aesthetic with a very wearable size with the Pi Pan Constellation dial, beloved of vintage connoisseurs. This is the original 1950s Pi Pan Connie design. It's faceted along its side, and then it's sort of stepped at its center. So a lot of Connie fans, traditional Connie fans, did not love the Griffin Claw constellations that came after 1982, and while those are still available, they're mostly superstar watches in East Asia. In the Western market, the Connie people wanted was this Connie, and here it is. Satin dial, silver white, steel case, and intriguingly, a coined tungsten bezel. And this bezel is almost indestructible. It is tungsten carbide and basically your heat shield without the fracture and shattering risks of scratch-resistant ceramic. Now, the watch does have a movement that's fit for a display case back, but the display case back's a little bit different on this one. As the original Connies featured the image of the observatory on the reverse side because they were observatory chronometers, the current Connie features the image of the observatory for nostalgic reasons, but it is a master coaxial. It is a caliber 8900 in here, which is the new master chronometer Maytas standard. You could see it on the dial. This is one of the reasons that the watch was rather slow in rolling out back in 2014, because a new factory was created just to build and certify these movements. That means that it's been through all the COSC testing standards, but it goes beyond, tested in 6 positions, not 5, as a fully cased up watch, not a bare movement, and significantly for testing standards including power reserve, winding efficiency, shock resistance, anti-magnetism, and water resistance. So a master chronometer is a more rigid and stringent standard. You can also see that the hands as well as the indices have been blackened, so they really pop against this dial. Throw it on the wrist, and it's not a big watch. The case is nicely shaped, and with no solid end links, it arcs around the wrist rather than flaring out over the edge. You can see this is perfect for a smaller wrist. My wrist is 16 centimeters, but you're not going to have any trouble wearing this on a wrist as small as 13 and a half. This might be the most versatile watch Omega makes. What a piece.
Yeah.
And you know, they're great to buy pre-owned because they originally sold with 5-year warranties. So if you buy one of those 1 or 2 years old, you're still getting more warranty than, say, Patek Philippe. It's a nice thing, and it's reassuring. I would also say that the coax is now finally what it was supposed to be when it came out in 1999. The problem originally was that Omega tried to adapt the mechanism to existing movements, like the 2892. The 8500 family that came after 2007 is all purpose-built, and this movement is from that family. So it's tri-level coaxial, and it's everything Dr. Daniels said it would be when he first envisioned this system back in the 1970s.
I also like that it's all satin.
It is.
Yeah, except for the high polished edges, but you know, again, the watch is great.
And it's
just a good choice.
It's a fantastic piece. In a world where you can wait forever to get a Datejust 41, this is a fantastic way to get into a similar watch that's technically just as accomplished and a hell of a lot less common. Okay, we got a big piece coming from your collection now.
So here we have I was excited about the topic, and then specifically this is the first watch that came to mind. So here we have a 38mm stainless steel resonance. This watch is from the lauded stainless steel set that FP Journe did to end the 38mm size. It came in a box set of 5 pieces, all featuring the same mustard yellow dial. Obviously, this is the resonance from that set. So they produced a total of 38 sets, meaning that there would only be 38 examples of this particular watch. One of the other differentiators of this piece is that it does have the rose gold movement. So it is one of the only pieces that's in existence that features a yellow dial against the rose gold movement. And one of the reasons why Francois Paul stopped producing the yellow gold dials is because that he thought that aesthetically it played very poorly in appearance against the red gold movements, which is why you no longer see them anymore. So it is one of the last times, I shouldn't even say last times, the only times where this would be taking place. Overall, the watch has a very different feel than its platinum case counterparts. It's quite a bit lighter. It's almost a little unnerving because you have the weight of the rose gold movement, but the case itself is quite light. It also is accompanied by a stainless steel deployment buckle. Again, one of the only watches that's made in stainless steel. Now, the stainless steel cases are not relegated only to this set. He does utilize them, but on his most complicated pieces. So he uses it on his Petite Sonnerie as well as his Grand Sonnerie. Overall, I'm a big fan of the watch. I think that it fits and feels great. I think that it's a watch that, in large part, unless you're deep into the Journe brand, you may not even know that it exists. And it's part of our pre-owned collection that we're selling by itself.
The nice thing about collecting Journe is that there are a couple of sets floating around, and collecting the set is generally considered to be the Everest of Journe collecting in the modern era. Short of something like an Opus 1 or a subscription series, Tourbillon Remontoire, it's really considered to be a distinction to collect the Ruthenium series or the Vagabondage series or the 38mm steel series. And this watch was special in a couple of ways. Brian mentioned some of the combinations, 38mm stainless steel, mustard yellow dial with the red gold movement. That's a unique combination here. But if you look closely at the dial, and I'll get as close as I can right here, you can also see that on top of that mustard base, all of the printing on this dial is done in blue, a subtle nod to the fact that this was a very special send-off series for the original 38mm case. Now, the other thing that's fun about these watches is that the res, of course, couples 2 different movements in one case. They're not mechanically connected, and the actual resonance phenomenon that binds them together takes about 7 to 10 minutes to totally take effect, so the seconds hands can be out of sync once resonance is achieved. So there's a flyback trigger down at 4 o'clock that synchronizes the seconds hands. A little bit of resonance knowledge, you can set these time zones independently. So though dual time is not the point, dual time is certainly a feature. There's a power reserve indicator, and you wind with 1 crown but 2 mainspring barrels. I'll do my best to show this. You can see the ruby pivots in the barrel bridge up at the top. 2 barrels, 2 drivetrains, 2 escapements, and 2 balances. You can actually vary the distance between the balance rims using a little rack and pinion at the center, and that allows the watchmaker to actually tune the resonance phenomenon. So if one starts running slow because of a knock or its orientation with respect to gravity, the other will self-correct. And so there's this virtuous reinforcement between 2 well-adjusted movements within one case. You can split them down the middle, and there are 2 movements in this 38mm case. And that is a fun piece. Again, you might just want to own 1 Journe watch, in which case a steel res is as good as it gets. Or, if you're very ambitious, you might want to collect the full 5-piece set from that year. And I suppose if you wanted the ultimate 5-piece set, you would try to match the serial numbers, because they do have individual serial numbers out of 38. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Once we have the set, we'll let you know. Let's talk about a watch that I often thought represents a wonderful alternative to Journe. If you're not into the Journe aesthetic, the watches do look very similar, or maybe you don't want to pay for precious metal inside or out, but you want the same level of finishing. Well, I always thought Laurent Ferrier, also of Geneva, gives you a lot of that. Now, they're a little bit more liberal with their use of stainless steel. With Journe, it's either going to be a special edition or a chiming watch. With the Laurent Ferrier, you can get a watch like this Galet Montre Ecole micro rotor regulator, and you can get it in a series production in stainless steel. 40 millimeters in stainless steel. This is a case design that came out in 2017. It gives you a lovely regulator dial. The nickel anthracite dial base, it's not quite black. It's somewhere between gray and black, has a vertical satin striation, and then there are dished silvered registers for the hours, the seconds, and there's a lovely red varnished Assegai-style minutes hand that runs radially. So it is a regulator dial. It has those strong school watch lugs designed to create the image of a pocket watch welded to lugs for use as a wristwatch. But when you turn it over, you find out this is where the money is spent at Laurent Ferrier. The movement itself is outstanding. Now, I recommend that if you want the absolute ultimate in finish, you consider Chronometre Fernand Berthoud, Philippe Dufour, and Grubel Forsey. If you want something that's 95% of that, for, I mean, honestly, 10% of the price, then you're talking Laurent Ferrier. They're in the same echelon of finish, in my opinion, from first-hand observation, as something like Romain Gauthier. They're that good. And I would put them on par with the Grunefelds in many regards. This is a truly awesome movement. 5, maybe 6 interior angles, depending on how you count them, where 2 beveled edges meet in a sharp cleft break, a V splay. You can see that inside the black polished and skeletonized balance cock. You can also see that the bridge for the micro rotor has been all black polished. You have broad, luminous Côte de Genève that actually remind me of those used by Philippe Dufour. And then the beveling is a mile wide, like early Roger Dubuis pieces. It's truly special. And all of this with a 3-day power reserve, a double direct impulse, non-Swiss lever escapement that's exclusive to Laurent Ferrier. And it even has a overcoil adjusted in 6 positions, like the Omega 6 positions, not the chronometer standard of 5. Now, it does have more wrist presence than a standard Galet because it has those strong lugs. So this is a watch with a handsome and slightly idiosyncratic look. Because of that lug profile, it's not just the Montre Ecole case. It actually has a little bit of an air of a Patek Philippe officer's watch. So this is a timepiece that has a lot of presence without being huge outright. A smaller wrist can wear this one. And again, in stainless steel, you're paying for the watchmaking, not for precious metal. So that's sort of a counterpoint to the availability of the Journe from the same size range, the same independent horology scene, and really even the same city. They're very different takes on independence with 2 different takes on richness. Journe adds precious metal, Ferrier a little bit more finishing. It's a nice contrast. Ultimately, there's also a huge price disparity, especially if you're going with a steel FP Journe. That's where Laurent Ferrier really, in my opinion, makes its strongest
This is now the price of what the set was.
That's true. The set was very fairly priced back in 15.
But I think as well, just because it's cased in stainless steel does not take any of the luxury away from the watch. Stainless steel, as far as the wearability, it's more durable than a precious metal. I think that it wears a little bit lighter, and it definitely there's a different tone to the metal as well. It's a little bit brighter, less gray. So I just, again, I think that one of the reasons why I believe that he utilizes stainless steel so often is because for quite a few other brands, namely Patek Philippe, stainless steel was used very sparingly. It was used either for special limited edition pieces, it was used for Calatravas from their past, and you don't see many, call it steel dress watches nowadays, and I think that this was almost an homage to those special rare pieces of old.
And you can really see how light, luminous, and broad those Côte de Genève are. Not all Geneva stripes are executed this beautifully. I think the real unheralded gem of the independent scene right now is Laurent Ferrier. I think when they first came out, they were like hugely hyped by Hodinkee mostly, and they kind of like overshot the mark. They were overestimated out of the gate. And I think there were trouble delivering the watches early, meeting the demand from markets. There was a bit of a backlash against Hodinkee generally. I still like them. They're still a great magazine, but I think they became a little bit self-aware, and I think some of that affected the Laurent Ferrier image for a while. And I think people are now rediscovering the Ferrier brand as underrated distinctly on the market. And there are a lot of brands with wait-listed watches, with huge aftermarket markups, and frankly, sometimes I just struggle to see what's so great about all of those. Just imagine you could have a real high luxury independent brand watch finished best in the world from Ferrier without any wait. All right, guys, you're going to contact Brian right here. If you're interested in any of these watches, Brian, how do they do it?
So you can reach out to myself, Brian at thewatchbox.com. You can reach out to social@thewatchbox.com if you have any questions for Tim. Obviously, please take a look at our Instagram channel. We're always putting out new content and new watches that come in. And yeah, please, leave a comment if you like the video. If you have any questions, obviously, also put your questions in the comments.
Guys, thanks so much. Time out, Tim out, Brian out, and thanks for logging on.